Welcome to the So Much More podcast, where we talk with people in the custom window treatment, soft home furnishings industry, and so much more. I'm your host, Seal DeGuglielmo. My guest on the podcast today is Adam Hoover. He began his journey in the furniture industry while in college. He began buying and selling vintage pieces from his dorm room. In 2011, he founded Main Street Modern, now one of the country's largest mid-century modern furniture showrooms that is located in Canton, Ohio. 2 years ago, he acquired Laubacher Upholstery, now known as Ohio Workroom. It's a thriving 10-person workroom. With a degree in financial service management and minors in entrepreneurship, real estate, international business, and communication, Adam is currently creating an all-in-one design and restoration showroom in a 100-year-old building in downtown Canton, putting both businesses under one roof. I really hope you enjoy hearing from Adam today. Adam, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, I'm very excited to be here, Seal. So it's an honor just to be asked to do a podcast.
Well, thank you. And you mentioned that you listen to podcasts, and I recently heard another podcaster say something that I think is really important. As a person who does this, I'm so honored that people take the time to listen. It's podcasts, whether you're listening in your car or your headphones, you're literally inside somebody's head. And to give someone the time that it takes to listen to a podcast, I'm honored that you take the time to listen to it. So I appreciate that.
Oh, it's really great that there are podcasts like this because there's not a lot for our industry. And so it's great to be able to listen to other people's stories and hear their challenges and successes. And I just find it very inspirational to listen to.
Well, that's great. And thank you for listening. I appreciate it. So let's introduce you to people. Tell us a little bit about who you are, where you live in the world, and a little bit about your life.
Yeah. So I'm Adam Hoover. I own Main Street Modern and Laubacher Upholstery, which we now call Ohio Workroom. I grew up in Alliance, Ohio, which is just outside Canton. People know Canton probably from the Football Hall of Fame, right. But it's a medium-sized city in Ohio. We're kind of in the middle of everything. So it's 6 hours to New York. It's 6 hours to Chicago. We call it the heart of the country. So I went to school on the East Coast in Rhode Island, where the convention is this year. Mm-hmm. I had an amazing time out there. I feel like Rhode Island is filled with a lot of art scene and different things like that with RISD. And that's really where my love for furniture kind of came to be. I was hanging out with some kids that were in the RISD furniture program, and I was just learning as much as I could about furniture at that time. And then I came back to Ohio. I was working for my father. I don't know. I went to school for financial service management, which has nothing to do with furniture. But somehow furniture found me, and I just fell in love with it, and I've been so passionate about it. And so, I started Main Street Modern, which was a mid-century furniture company, and I started that in my dorm room, and I grew it into a 40,000 square foot building, which was one of the largest it's still one of the largest collections in the United States. There's somebody that is saying that they have more square footage than us now. So maybe we're not the largest anymore, but we were the largest for a while. Okay. And then 2 years ago, we bought Laubacher Upholstery.
Okay. So I want to go back to your dorm room days, because selling furniture out of a dorm room is not really the normal side gig for a college kid. That's a little unusual.
Yeah. Well, I've never been usual. I've always been a little different. I've bought and sold things my whole life. My parents took me to flea markets and craft shows and things like that. As a kid, I got drug along to all those things. And I kind of just learned to appreciate things that were older and were unique. And so then, I had bought and sold things my whole life. I was a little bit of an entrepreneur. I knew that was something that was in my blood that what maybe wasn't the same as everybody else. I had been in the paper a couple times as a child for starting different businesses. And I think that anybody that wants to be in business, if they find the thing that they love, they can be successful at it. Okay. And so I just fell in love with furniture design. And when I fell in love with furniture design, it became natural for me to buy and sell furniture because I was an entrepreneur and I loved to buy and sell things. So when I was in college, I didn't have any money. And I would go to the Salvation Army in Providence, Rhode Island, which was the largest Salvation Army I've ever been in anywhere. And every week I would find something that I could sell to make enough money to go out on the weekend. And it was quite interesting because interior designers were driving from Boston and New York to pick things up out of my college dorm room that like a couple nights before we were, drinking beer and partying going.
So you weren't reupholstering any of this furniture. You were just buying it and reselling it.
Yeah, I was just buying and reselling as is. I wasn't doing any fixing up of any kind. I was just buying things that I knew to be high quality designer goods that, and a lot of times probably got taken back and got reupholstered by an interior designer.
So where did you store these pieces after you bought them?
We just had a 3-bedroom unit for 2 people. And, it wasn't a lot of stuff. It was enough that we were filling our living room and our spare bedroom with it.
I'm picturing this like parade of furniture up and down.
Oh, yeah. We were on the second floor. So, yes, there was a lot of up and down.
And but everybody in the dorm, in the main gathering place, like, what are they doing? Are they moving again? What are they doing?
Well, we were in a house. We were actually It was an apartment, but in Providence, instead of being side by side, they're stacked on top of each other. So we were coming in and out the door, and I'm sure other people in the neighborhood were always like, "What's going on?" I mean, definitely my neighbors asked me, like, "What are you doing with those? Why do you have so many chairs?"
Yeah, exactly. And who are these people coming and doing deals with you later on?
Yes. Why did that person just shell out $1,000 cash in our driveway?
Right. Exactly. I'm surprised you never had the police stopping by just to check what was going on.
No, it wasn't that kind of operation.
So one of the things, and we started to talk about this before we were recording, about the differences in our stories. And I find that a lot of the people that I've spoken with in both upholstery and the window treatment industry started their businesses as, well, I have this skill, I enjoy doing it. For a lot of women, it was, I could stay home with my kids and make some money. For some of the men that I've spoken with, it was like, I'd prefer to be doing this than something else. But you started yours as an entrepreneur. You were already working for yourself and making your own money and not reporting to somebody else. So here you are taking finance in college. When did you realize you were not going to be employed by someone else and that you were going to be working for yourself?
Yeah, well, I think the American education system really pushes everyone to go to college and to get a corporate job. And I've been crusading against that now for at least 10 years, saying that we need to show kids that the trades are important. And, every school wants to say, 99% of our seniors went on to college, and college isn't necessarily the answer for 99% of our seniors. So I wasn't sure I wanted to go to college, but my counselor said I had to go to college. My parents said I had to go to college. Everybody said I had to go to college. And I thought, well, what do I want to do? I want to make lots of money. So I should be in the stock market. So I liked finance. I liked math. I went to school in Rhode Island with a program that was sponsored by Fidelity. I was going to get my Series 7 while I was still in school. Going to go on Wall Street, going to make millions of dollars a day, and it's going to be amazing. Well, they partnered me with the worst person ever my senior year. they had like a day where a kid came back, or a graduate came back to tell you about their position, what all they do. And this guy comes back and I'm like, so what's it like? And he's like, I staple pieces of paper together. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, all I do is make cold calls and staple pieces of paper together. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that sounds horrible. And he's like, that's all you'll do for at least 5 years.
Oh my God.
I'm like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. And at that same time, it was 2007. The stock market was crashing, and a lot of these places, they were letting people go and not hiring. And so, I don't know. In my own head, I just thought that I'm not even going to apply for these positions. I'm not going to do this. I came back to Ohio. I started working for my father again, which we did excavating. Okay. So I was making $10 an hour, digging holes with a shovel, and I was going to auctions every chance I could get.
Okay.
And, I guess if I want to wrap it up real quick, what happened was I ended up going to an auction on the Ohio, PA, Pittsburgh, or West Virginia border, a dirt auction just in the middle of a field, and I found the Herman Miller CSS unit. There's a long story that goes with it, but I ended up buying it for $15. And I sold it the next week for $15,000. And when that happened, that was my sign. Hey, I should be out here doing this. I know a lot about, the furniture and design. And so that kind of gave me this cushion to tell my father, hey, I'm going to do this. This is a real career. I can make this happen. And so that was really that was when Main Street Modern became an official business. I registered it with the government. And, before that, it was just college dorm room, extra cash. This was, okay, this is going to support me and my family and be a real thing.
All right. So I'm going to question you. Was he the worst person for you to be paired with, or was he the best person for you to be paired with so that you didn't go into that field?
Yeah, I don't know. This field has a lot of ups and downs. And there are times that I think, gosh, wouldn't it have been nice if I had been in the stock market?
And stapled papers?
With a stable pay, yeah. But to be honest, I love furniture. I love design, and my day is always different. And so I'm very grateful to get to do this job.
So I'm curious, Adam, when you had that sit down talk with your dad, how did that go? Because first of all, you're now an employee of his. And as someone who now owns a business, you have to think that somewhere in his brain, he's thinking, I can pass this business on to Adam. He's going to take this over for me. At some point, that probably crossed his mind. And now you're sitting down and saying to him, I bought a piece of furniture for $15 and sold it for $15,000. This is what I'm going to do. How did he receive that?
My dad it wasn't received bad at all. My dad already knew that I probably, I think early on there was probably the thought that maybe I would take over the family business. Okay. But the family business, my dad worked very hard. He went to work before the sun came up and came back after the sun went down every day. Excavating is a very labor-intensive, tough job, and it doesn't pay some great amount. My dad had been very successful by being an entrepreneur himself and doing other things outside of the actual excavating. The excavating, that kind of like pays your core bills, and there's not a lot left over. So I'm not sure that he actually wanted me to be an excavator. Gotcha. And both of us had really had always loved going to the flea markets and going to the auctions. It's him that took me to all these auctions starting out as a young child. And so I think there was an NPR thing where they talked to me about it, and they interviewed my dad too. And my dad, his comment was, I was kind of jealous. I was kind of jealous that he was going to be going to the auctions as his form of work.
Right.
So I took my dad to an auction last week. We didn't buy anything, but that's That's a good time for us.
Still got to spend the time together. That's awesome. It really is.
Yeah.
And I think, back to your comment about, not everyone needs to go to college and it's not for everyone. I couldn't agree more. And I think that introducing young people to different trades and different opportunities to make money is really important before they rack up hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of bills that then they have to spend the next 40 years paying off. And not many young people in this country have parents who can just hand them a check for their college education. And so therefore, that's part of the problem.
Yeah, I listened to a podcast. I won't mention it, but another podcast. And the guy that owns Century Furniture was on there. And he was saying how, as an industry, we need 100% more upholsterers than we have. Wow. And he was saying that starting in the 80s, when furniture manufacturing started to head, overseas from America, and furniture stores were closing, that no one suggested to their child, you should be an upholsterer. Right. And so what we have now is we have people that are masters but have passed their prime, per se. Mm-hmm. And then we have young people that have yet to become masters. And we have this huge age gap in the middle where there's just hardly anybody.
Right.
And that's really a problem for our industry. That's why I bought Laubachers, and we're trying to train the next generation as much as we can, and we're going to expand and have more spots for young peoples, because I think that this industry is growing at a rapid pace, and the workforce just isn't there.
Right. So let's talk about that a little bit, because I interviewed John, who works for you, and we talked about the fact that you've got multiple people working there, and some people had already been with the first company. You bought it, and of course that's unsettling for people. All right, we have a new owner. What's going to happen? Do we get to keep our jobs? Well, right now, if you're an upholsterer and you're good, yes, you get to keep your job because we need you. But you've got the training. John mentioned that, there was a way he was trained, and that was kind of as people walked past him and told him what to do, and that wasn't ideal. And you've got to get systems and processes in place so that it's consistent, so that if, Joe and Susan are upholstering in different sides of the workroom, is the quality going out the quality that you want your name on? So what are some of the challenges with that and finding the workforce that you need?
Finding the workforce is almost impossible. Okay. I had owned Main Street Modern for 15 years or so before I bought Laubachers. I had originally tried to bring an upholsterer into my building, gave him free rent. It was a bad situation, didn't work out. He left. Since then, I've used at least 15 different upholsterers across the United States to do work for Main Street Modern. Upholsterers in Chicago, upholsterers in Philadelphia, lots of upholsterers in Ohio. I tell people all the time, upholstery isn't art, and perfection is, although we strive for it, is nearly impossible. Mm-hmm. I say, think about the best basketball player or baseball player in the world. They don't hit a home run every time they come up. Right. So even the guys the shops that I'm like, this shop is the best. I love this shop. As somebody that owned Main Street Modern, and I'm taking it for a customer there to be upholstered, when I get it back, there's almost always something that I could pick at. And my wife says that I'm just extremely critical, but I want the work to be really good. And so I found it very frustrating. I tried to buy a man a house to move from Philadelphia to Ohio to be an upholsterer full time for me, and that didn't work out either. So when Casey said he was looking to retire, and I think there was 6 people in the workroom back there at that time, plus administrative. I said, hey, this is the biggest workroom in our area. You have the base. So I definitely wasn't looking to get rid of anybody. I wanted to keep everybody. We did a $500 signing bonus and gave everybody $1 raise immediately when I took over, because the last thing you would want to do is buy a workroom and have your staff leave.
Right.
Now that I've been in the workroom for 2 years, we let one gentleman go. That was very hard. Honestly, I had never fired anybody in my career. I don't ever want to fire anybody. It's a horrible experience. But unfortunately, sometimes things have to happen for the better of your team. Mm-hmm. And so that had to happen. We let a guy go. Then I hired somebody else and I had to let them go because they didn't show up. But what I have found actually is the opposite of what you hear on a regular basis from just the general community about how people don't want to work and people, they can't get anybody to apply. Every time I say that we're looking to hire, I get an insane number of applicants. And then when we go through those applicants and I start interviewing them, I find that a lot of them are making more money in a corporate position than I'm offering. Okay. And I'm telling them, I don't know if this is the right financial decision for you. And they're telling me, I cannot stay at my job another day. This is what I want to do. They're dying to get out of the corporate world. They don't want to sit in a cubicle. They want to do something with their hands. They want to do something that's going to be different every day, something that they're going to get to see a start and a finish to, and be a part of revitalizing the furniture. So I've been very fortunate in having great people come to me and want to work. As far as training those people, that is a process. I think that the industry standard's about 4 years for somebody to become a master upholsterer. I'm not sure that they're a master upholsterer after 4 years. Okay. I think that after 4 years, they can do a sofa. You can give them the fabric and say, do this sofa. But, after 10 years, after thousands of projects, every project is different. There is always new things. And so you're always tweaking little things. And, the thing about my workroom is that we continually strive to be as perfect as possible. We realize that perfection is nearly impossible, but we're always going to be willing to go back and tweak something if that's what the customer wants. And what I have found in the industry is a lot of times, once it's done, it's done. And the upholsterer says, like, what do you mean? That's good. And that was always hard for me as the person that's bringing the item to the upholsterer to be like, well, no, wait, hold on. This isn't that straight, or this seam should be here. And they're like, no, that's where that seam goes. And I think that one of the other things is that we need customers to be as detail oriented as possible when they bring the item in as to what they want.
Yes.
Bringing an item in and saying, oh, I want it the same way it is. That's not necessarily covering all of our bases.
Yeah, because sometimes they mean, I like the soft, squishy foam cushions because I sink into it. And we're thinking, oh, this needs new foam. It needs to be freshened up. And you're right. The communication is really important on that level.
If you pick out a pattern, we need to know where you want the pattern, what you want centered. Do you expect the pattern to carry from the back all the way down to the front? Or do you want the pattern centered on each cushion and on the front of the chair? Like, there's just so many things. And so I plan to make a video series on educating people on the process of upholstery.
What a great idea.
The more people are educated on what all happens, and the more they understand it all, the more they'll be able to tell us exactly what they want. And when the customer and the upholsterer can work together, I think that's when the best chance of coming out with perfection arises. Okay.
Adam, do you actually do upholstery?
I do not do upholstery. Okay. I'm a master breaker downer. I can tear the fabric off a sofa probably faster than anybody, but I cannot put it back together. I have been a part of thousands of upholstery projects, playing different roles, but no, I cannot. And I keep saying, maybe I should learn. And they go, when would you learn, Adam?
In your spare time, Adam?
Right.
So I have a couple of questions about all of that. And first of all, the fact that you're getting so many applicants who are coming from the corporate world means that stapling those pieces of paper together is truly not for most of us. That is just boring, and people do want something else. But the ability to, there are things you can teach, and there are things you can't teach. And there are people who understand right away that pattern matching is important and that certain pieces need to, like, you can have a difference of opinion about what you want, but then there's also what looks best on a piece of furniture, what's going to look good over time, all of that. Yeah. So, and I know in speaking with John, you know, just having different personalities in the workroom and people work differently. And as a solopreneur, I know that some of the times when I'm working on something, it would be nice to be able to say to somebody, hey, come here and look at this. Does this look right to you? And I don't have that. On the other hand, I don't have anybody walking past me and going, oh, that's not right. You need to fix that. And I feel like the stereotype of who the upholsterer is has changed dramatically over the last few years. I think that it used to be the crotchety old man, you know, in his solo workroom who was
a lot of those.
Yeah, not sharing any information with anyone.
Absolutely.
And this is the way it's done, and I'm not redoing it for you. I did it right. If you don't like it, too bad. I see that has changed so dramatically in the past few years, and especially the education part of things. And so the fact that you had people in place who were already trained is a benefit. But then did you have to talk to some of them and say, okay, that's not how I want it done? Because now it's got your name on it.
Yeah. So, you know, like I said, we've been striving for perfection. Mm-hmm. And what I found over the last 15 years or so working with all upholsterers, I've worked with so many of those, the older gentlemen that are in a one-man workroom, and what they do is what they do, and that's good enough. I've tried to hire people to work with them to help with my projects that I would pay. Mm-hmm. They don't want anything to do with that. They just want to be left alone. And that's really what most upholsterers were, 15 years ago. But when I came over here, I had never had a team as big as this, to take on 10 people and to have people that I didn't hire. So I didn't know anything about them. That was a huge challenge for me. Okay. That was the biggest challenge. And I probably created some problems for myself in my own workroom with the desire of being the best. I made people rework a lot of things. Okay. And with that, I probably hurt morale because you have a lot of people that have been doing things their way for a mm-hmm. long time, and mm-hmm. their way was always acceptable and good. My problem is that I'm not just selling to my local market. We're doing pieces for Main Street Modern that are being sold online, and mm-hmm. they're going all over the world. And when an item has to be picked up and shipped to California, if the customer, they can't come in and look at it and say, oh, that little edge right there looks not quite right, and we fix it. Instead, we'd have to ship it out there, ship it back, right. and then ship it out again.
Yes.
And that would be insanely horrible.
Right.
So Main Street Modern's trying to sell furniture at the top end of the market. We're trying to take a designer piece and redo it, and it needs to be the best one of those pieces that ever existed.
Right.
And to do that, we have to drill down, and we have to be as close to perfect as possible.
Right.
So I said to people, we're going to do it. We're going to nitpick the crap out of ourselves, and it's going to slow us up. But eventually it's going to become common. It's just going to become the way we do things. Right. And so in the first 6 months of owning the company, I lost $30-some thousand. Workroom morale was low, and it was not a hostile place, but it didn't feel that great. And at that point I thought, oh my gosh, what have I done? I wish there was a way out of this. And luckily we pushed forward, and everyone has gotten drastically better. and the culture has changed, and it's a good place to work now.
And that, you know what, that actually is fantastic to hear, Adam. But I think, you said it, you strive for perfection, but this is fabric that we work with. This is fabric on wood that we work with. These are, using materials that don't look exactly the same way on every piece of furniture, or fabric that you buy for 3 years straight and it's exactly the same. Then you get a bolt of fabric and it's not quite the same as those other bolts, and it's got less stretch or it's got more stretch. And these are things that, if you are a seasoned and well-trained professional, you can adapt and you can make it as perfect as possible. But I feel like this is the best and the worst industry for perfectionists. We want our custom work to look the best it can. This is, business isn't personal, but this is very personal because it has our name on it. But at the same time, we're using materials that are not lending themselves to perfection. And so it's like we're butting our heads against the wall all the time.
I think I've said multiple times, I wish there was like a genie that would like come out and tell me what fabric to pick for a certain piece of furniture. Because you're absolutely correct. The way fabrics behave, one fabric can be completely different than another fabric. One fabric would look amazing on this chair, and another fabric looks sloppy, and it's very hard. I honestly, I think that one of the biggest challenges is in picking the right fabric for your piece.
I agree with that. And as a fabricator, I can't know every fabric. And when a designer comes to me with a 2x2 swatch and says, "Oh, will this be good?" I have no idea if it's going to stretch, and I can look it up online, but sometimes that information isn't accurate. And I don't know how long these chair cushions are going to last. I cannot guarantee this for you because this is not a big enough piece for me to work with. Yeah.
It's definitely a difficult part is the fabric, and it's overwhelming for most customers to look at the thousands of options.
Absolutely. So when I was speaking with John, he talked about the fact that you're not there a lot, that you are in and out, and you are running this business. So do you feel like your college education did prepare you for some of this?
Yeah, so that's something that I think about a lot is was college worth it? A lot of times I say, gosh, I don't use anything that I learned in college, but that's not really true. I took a lot of different things in college. I took speech, I took real estate, I took international business, and finance, and concentration in stock brokerage, but I have made strategic moves for my businesses that probably I relied on a lot of the information that I learned in college. We own a couple different buildings, and we've been able to get funding and different things to make all this happen. And so, sure, there were definitely things that were learned in school. I think that it would have been possible to do the job without school, but School enhanced my abilities to deal with different situations for sure.
Okay. Well, while we're talking about education, you will be teaching at the Custom Workroom Conference this September. If you're listening in real time to this podcast, it's 2024, and you'll be teaching. You are teaching Elevate Your Worth through strategic pricing. Why that topic, and why do you think that's important?
Yeah. So I'm not sure exactly what I'm allowed to say because you're not allowed to talk about the class.
Just a little bit. Yes. We'll be careful.
Yeah. So I think that a lot of businesses in general we've seen inflation occur and a lot of things raise in price. I think that a lot of upholsterers have kept their price back or raised it marginally. And I think that it's time to realize that we can't charge these low prices.
Right.
Again, my first 6 months of owning this company, I lost $30,000. And we upped the price. And then the next year, the next 12 months after that, we broke even. So now this year we are in the green. We're doing well this year. But I think that everything is getting more expensive. The demand for upholstery and custom stuff is growing, and there's very few people that can even do it. And
exactly.
So, I think that a lot of us we feel bad to charge a lot of money. It's like a mental thing. It's like, even after, you've written a quote and presented it to the customer and they've agreed upon it, when the moment comes to collect the payment, it's like, oh gosh, like I hope that they're happy with this.
Yeah.
And I think that we all need to realize that, they've chosen to come to us and we're offering a service, and we are worth the money that we ask. And we need to ask more, because in my opinion, what's going to happen is we're going to have a slowdown. And when that slowdown comes, everybody's going to expect prices to go the other way. And heaven forbid, if you haven't raised your prices, that would be a bad spot to be in. You would, because, again, listening to the man that owns Century Furniture talk, he said that we were in a point of time where a lot of small business owners look at what's in the bank account and how many orders do I have?
Right.
I got money in the bank and I got orders, so I'm doing good. That's how they kind of forecast business.
Yeah.
The problem is that everything keeps going up. So these orders that I have already committed to, they may not actually be profitable. And that's really scary.
Yes, it is.
So at that point, if you're a small business, you're going to have to make a choice. Do I do these jobs to break even, or to lose money, or do I just tell these people that I can't do their jobs? And that would be obviously not good for your image to not do them. And if you do them, you're not going to make any money, which is bad for you.
Right.
I just think that there's a lot of that occurring, where a lot of upholsterers are really riding the edge of breaking even.
Right.
I know, for me, doing it for so many years, that like, it used to be that there was quite a few guys that would do just about any club chair for me for about $500. Well, now it's like there's guys that are doing it for $600. $600 is not enough.
Right.
And if there's springs to tie and everything else, there's so many upholsterers that are cheaping out on, like, oh, the springs look good, I won't tie them, because tying takes so much time. But if you're going to do it right, there's a lot of time, and we have to charge the prices. And if everybody across the board is raising the prices, then that'll just be normal.
Right.
So I'm excited to talk to people. I have a pretty good presentation, I think, put together. And I really just want to encourage everyone to be raising their prices. And the other thing that happens when you raise prices is a lot of us are afraid that we're going to scare people away. We're going to scare business away. Mm-hmm. And I would counter that with, I want to do everybody's thing. But when I work with customers that are very price sensitive, customers that are very price sensitive also tend to be more nitpicky about the project, because to them, they're spending what is a lot of money for them.
A bigger percentage of their money. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when they get the product, they are like, really, they're going to really make you work for it, because they're really working to give you that money for the project. When we do projects for people that have that are at a higher income level, and it's not such a big deal to them, they hardly ever nitpick the projects. And the more people that we do projects for that are on the higher end, the more they tell who do the people on the higher end hang out with, other people on the higher end.
Yeah.
So if we raise our prices and stick to them, we get customers that are on the higher end. Those customers are less trouble. They also tell their friends that are also high-end customers.
And less trouble.
And less trouble. It's not that I don't want to do, I want to do stuff for everybody, but there's a cost associated with doing it.
Yeah.
Even for my own house, it's expensive.
It's expensive.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money it's $4,000 to redo a sofa. Like, it's not cheap.
No.
And so we can't do cheap. Cheap work is not good work. And so, we're just going to talk about strategies for raising your prices, ways to deal with, customers with prices that are going up, how you want to raise them. You don't want to raise them all at once. You want to raise them over time. You don't want it to be a complete shock to somebody that you're being a regular customer. Like, oh my gosh, what happened? This was $500 and now it's $700. So I'm going to go over a lot of different strategies for how to raise your prices without affecting your customer base, why prices should go up, and really talk about how, as an industry as a whole, we need to raise our prices.
Yeah.
We're doing work that takes as long as it takes to become a doctor, to become a professional at.
Yeah.
And you need at minimum 4 years to really be a master upholsterer. And I would argue that you're not a master upholsterer after 4 years.
Yeah. And I don't disagree with you on that. Like the upholstery end of our industry, window treatments, I don't do the same thing all the time. Every room is different. Every request from a designer is different. And just when I think I know how to do something, a designer throws something at me that is completely different. And I've got to either learn something new or take the time to sit down and say, okay, what's the best? I have experience. What's the best way to do this? But you don't just dive in. There's a lot of planning and everything else that goes with it. I want to jump in and take a moment to thank the sponsors who make it possible for me to bring you the podcast each week. My sponsors are people in the industry that I have personally had a connection to, purchased from, or used their services. So it makes it really easy for me to tell you about them and the great things that they have to offer. Because I feel so strongly about education in our industry, I'm thrilled that as the owner of the Curtains and Soft Furnishings Resource Library, I can use the resources of the library to help support the podcast. The library hosts the industry's largest curated collection of educational resources for the custom home furnishings professional. Membership to the library gives you access to a wealth of downloadable reference materials, videos, live events, as well as a community of support to help you develop your design, sales, and fabrication skills, and to grow or start a business. Join the library today at csfrl.org. Angels Linings would like to invite you to become part of their family. With reputable lining comes exceptional customer service. Trust them with your linings like I do. You get 2 Tootsie Pops with every bolt of lining you receive. For smiles, satisfaction, and a sugar kick all around, call Angels Linings at 1-800-450-9368. The Workroom channel is the premier online training provider for professional fabrication skills. Go to theworkroomchannel.com to browse the selection of anytime access courses created by industry experts. Watch detailed demonstration videos, download companion materials, and participate in private course discussion boards with your instructor and classmates from around the world. Start your course path today at theworkroomchannel.com. If you've listened to the podcast, you know how much I've learned from Michelle Williams. And I think most of my guests have mentioned taking at least one of her classes or gotten coaching from her. Her business is Scarlet Thread Consulting. Michelle loves to work with creative business owners to help them understand all aspects of their business and to use their gifts and talents to make it profitable. Michelle is a strategic profitability coach certified in the Profit First methodology, and she can be reached at scarletthreadconsulting.com. I've also mentioned my membership with the WCAA, and I'm now a gold level sponsor, where education, networking, visibility, and industry discounts are just a few of the benefits that are offered to our members. The Window Covering Association of America is the only national nonprofit trade association that's dedicated to the window coverings industry and the dealers, decorators, workrooms, designers, and installers that make up our membership. Join today at WCAA.org. WCAA, where you are never in business alone. I've also been extremely fortunate to be able to work with Merrill Y. Landis Ltd. It's a family-owned and operated custom workroom and product distribution company to the trade with over 70 years of experience. And in addition to their custom work, they offer a wide variety of decorative drapery hardware. They offer stout and flare 21 fabrics. They have Roman shade operating systems and assembly kits. They have motorization and workroom supplies, and they serve both designers and workrooms. And you can check out the MYL Advantage at MYLLTD.com. Adam, I'm thrilled that you're approaching this subject because I think it's still a really difficult accomplishment for all of us to raise our prices. We've had several people in the window treatment end of things really talking to us about our prices and pricing strategies, but I have not seen it quite as much in the upholstery end of it. But the fact of the matter is what we do is a luxury service. And it is not for everyone. I would love to make window treatments for everyone, but at what cost to me? And when I am missing out on time with my family or working long hours to accomplish, a set of Roman shades for someone's third home, I should really be making a lot of money doing that. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that this is where I think the elevation of the trades is really important. And some of us have either taken the time to become experts, we've taught ourselves, whatever it happens to be, we had a skill, we honed it. We take it for granted. We think, well, it's not that hard. I'm sewing, I'm stretching fabric. It's not that hard. Yes, it is. Other
it's very hard.
Do it. Yes. And upholstery is physically demanding. It's not just understanding how to do it. It's physical labor. And we should get paid for that.
When we bring new people in, their hands hurt for the first couple of months.
Yes. And
they build calluses and they're like, oh, my fingers.
And unless you take care of yourself, you're doing long-term damage for your body. And you've got to be, like you said, the worst case scenario. I've got money in the bank and I've got, jobs that I'm doing. Well, we also have to prepare for our future because those tools will break down over time and we can't replace our hands. So if we haven't planned well for our future, then that's going to be a problem too.
No, you're not going to be able to do upholstery, into your 90s. That's not going to happen. The upholsterers that I know that are in their 70s, they can't move a sofa by themselves, right, and everything else. It's starting to become challenging. They can still pull some fabric and stuff, but even that's getting challenging.
Yeah. It's hard on our bodies. So in light of the journey that you've taken, Adam, have you ever considered quitting?
Yeah, like 5 million times.
I always worry when people say no.
I listened to the podcast the other day that was an old one that you put back up there, and she said never. And I thought, never? You've never thought? Yeah, I mean, I've had so many. When you're an entrepreneur, you deal with so much stuff. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I see people on Instagram and stuff, and they're crying because the rack of clothes fell over and they had to pick it all back up and stuff. And I think, oh my gosh, I'm like, you will never survive.
Yeah.
I've had everything happen. As in Main Street Modern, I I had probably a really dark week where I thought this was it. And I had like $10,000 some dollars worth of furniture picked up by a shipping company, and then they went out of business.
Oh
And
my
so they never
gosh.
delivered the furniture, and I had to refund the customers, and I'm out the stuff. And that was early on. And I didn't have $10,000 to my name. So it was, I thought, what am I doing? I'm working 68, 70 hours a week. And like this happens. And like, all I'm trying to do is like, just make a living wage. And,
Right.
and like, I'm getting destroyed here. And, that's not the only thing that's happened like that.
Right.
I mean, at least once a year, something happens that I'm like, oh, I just can't believe it. And when I bought this upholstery company, I looked over all their financials. They were making money. And I thought, well, I'll be able to come in there and I'll be able to make some improvements. We'll make even more money. Instead, the first 6 months, we lost $30,000. And I thought, oh my gosh. And I obviously paid a lot of money for the company. Mm-hmm. And so I have all this money that I owe, plus I'm like going further into debt, and it's taking up all my time. And I think, oh God, please just let me get out of this. But I have found that as long as you, keep working at it, that it always gets better. And whenever you think you're at your lowest point, that's when the sunlight is right around the corner. And then you're going to feel like you're on top of the world. Yeah. Suddenly you're going to be president, and everything is amazing, and you're the best there ever was. And then the roller coaster starts over again.
Being an entrepreneur is a little bipolar, isn't it? I mean, it's just from one extreme to the other.
I have said that to my wife. Yes.
What is your definition of success, Adam?
If you ask 5-year-old Adam, the definition of success is millions of dollars and cars and vacations. Now my definition of success is definitely different. My definition of success is having some financial freedom, but also it's doing something that I love. Mm-hmm. And I love this. I love the restoring of the old furniture. I love going out and finding the old furniture. I work way more than 40 hours a week, but I also have some level of freedom to my hours that I work. Mm-hmm. I got to be here to talk to you. I got to be at this appointment. I got to be at this delivery. But also, if I want to go to my kid's soccer game, I can say, I'm going to my kid's soccer game. Yeah. And, so being able to have a slow morning every once in a while, and to be able to do what I love, and be at a point that, and this point doesn't happen right away, but being at a point where you're not worried about money every day, that's success. Getting to a point that you're comfortable, mm-hmm. you have enough to be comfortable, and you're doing what you love. Well, that's more than most people are ever going to achieve.
I agree with you. And I love that definition.
So
what would you say has been your greatest success so far?
Well, I actually thought about this question, and I went back to Main Street Modern, and then Madison, who's our front office person, was like, that's not the answer you're giving. You have to give an answer about upholstery. And I said,
no,
okay.
You don't.
Well, no. And so I thought about it a second, and I thought, well, I've only been here doing upholstery with this company for 2 years, and it started out rough. And so I was like, well, what are our big successes? It's not an individual project or something. So I realized that my biggest success was creating a team here. And when I came in here, we had a company culture that was very different than any company culture I had ever been a part of. Mm-hmm. I hate to say it, but there was nitpicking, and there was like complaining about each other. And
I don't like that.
People did not seem happy. And I listened to podcasts, and I read a lot about company culture and how to change it. Mm-hmm. And the main thing that I learned from all of that is that you can't say that you want to change it. You can't say what you want it to be. I mean, you can say those things, but that doesn't change it.
Right.
And it doesn't happen quick. It happens over a long period of time.
Yeah.
And so I dug down into that, and I tried to figure out, what's making everybody tick, and what can we do to improve the work environment. And, slowly, more and more, it became, we have dinners, we have company outings, we try to do things that are fun outside of work.
Mm-hmm.
I try to listen to people. I try to make this a fun place to be. And over 2 years' time, I think that we have finally got to a point where the culture has changed.
Okay.
And that's, you're just writing your story every day. And at first it's, this is how we do it. And then it's, this is how we did it. And then it becomes, this is how we do it now. And then eventually it just is, this is how it's done. And
right.
So treating everyone with respect, treating everyone as a team member. I've said to people, listen, when someone isn't doing something, when you're on a basketball team and you have a player that isn't, hitting all their shots or doing everything, you don't run that person into the ground. You try to find a way to bring that person up. You want to support that person. And so when you're on a team, whether it's any job, part of your job is to support everyone around you. And when we work together, we're able to accomplish so much more than when we work individually. And collaboration is literally, it's the key to any truly successful story. I feel like it's we all have different things that we're good at, and we can all succeed at these things by ourselves. But when we're able to collaborate, when we trust others and let them bring in what they're good at and mix it with what we're good at, you get outstanding results. And so my biggest accomplishment has been, creating a team here out of a bunch of people that were working on their own kind of.
Gotcha.
Even though they were working for the same company and they were working in the same building, it wasn't necessarily a team. And now there's lots of laughter in the workroom, which I would say is a very positive sign, because if there's no laughter in your workroom, people are not happy. So we have laughter in the workroom. We have people doing things outside of work together. And we have a sense of team or community in our workroom. And so to me, that's so important. It makes me so happy. Even more than numbers, it makes me happy to know that people are happy working for me.
That's awesome. I love that. You mentioned digging into finding out more about leadership and things like that. We've talked about listening to podcasts. Do you read books, listen to podcasts? Is there anything in that kind of education that's really made an impact on you? Is there anything in particular that you would mention?
Yeah. When I was younger, which is crazy, but when I was in high school, I read tons of finance books. And
you were determined to make a lot of money, weren't you?
I used to keep track of the pennies that I paid for lunch and things. I try to save most of my lunch, or I try to eat less lunch, eat at home, and save the money that my mom gave me. I'd plug it all into QuickBooks when I was in 7th grade. 10 cents went out for this and $1 went out for that. But anyway, yes. So the biggest book that I think has played a role in my life is Millionaire Next Door. Mm-hmm. And that book is fairly old now, and they've come out with several since that are kind of updated. But the original Millionaire Next Door was a great starting point for somebody that wanted to realize what traits are helping people be successful in our world. And, knowing the difference between I guess what we think a millionaire is and what a millionaire really is. So with that, I read lots of other books, but now I find myself listening to podcasts rather than reading. And I wish I could get back into reading. I have 3 little kids and another one on the way, and I just don't find the time to be able to sit down and read. So my opportunity is while I'm driving to listen to podcasts.
Okay.
And, like I said, I've listened to this podcast a bunch. I like the Business of Home podcast. It's not necessarily upholstery or, soft furniture, draperies and things, but it's all within our industry.
Exactly.
And you hear a lot of stories from a lot of different people. And I think that it gives some inspiration. And sometimes you hear about like new fabrics and new things that are coming out. I do listen to the Chairish Podcast. It's a little less formal. But since I buy and sell furniture, I find it very interesting to listen to that. And you'll hear from interior designers and different things. And again, that plays all into our fields because that's who we're working with. Exactly. And so we're hearing the things that they're thinking. And that might allow us to adapt something that we're doing to them. But then I just listen to NPR and just different random business podcasts that have titles that appeal to me.
Okay. All right. Do you use much technology in the business, Adam?
So I've considered buying like a robotic cutter for our store. I've done some digging. I've had a man come out. I've talked to him about, what we're doing and how that would work. I think that technology is going to play a role more so in the future. Right now, technology is not a huge thing. But obviously, I'm talking to you using technology. Yeah. And if there's any point of technology that's important, it's our social medias, I think. Okay. And most of that comes through our phone, maybe our computer, but Instagram, Facebook, those things have become an amazing resource for any company to touch base with its core customer. Yeah.
In ways that we couldn't have before.
No. And there's people that are searching certain hashtags, and they just randomly find you or somebody shares it and then they see it. And, with my other business, Main Street Modern, we have 38,000 followers. With Laubacher's, I think we have like under 3,000 followers. Not quite the same. Yeah. But I think that building a authentic audience that's real and not worrying about the actual number, but taking care of the people that are following you. Okay. If you're on Instagram and your mom is the only person that likes and comments on your post, you better comment back to your mom and say, I really appreciate that, Mom. Thank you. Because mom will eventually stop responding if you don't. So make sure that you take the time to post things because people love to see them. And then if people comment, make sure you take the time to comment back. Yes. They did that for you. You need to do that for them.
It's funny how many people don't feel like that's necessary. And yet when I do comment to someone and they answer me back, I'm always impressed. Like, oh, good. They did see my comment, or, oh, it did matter to them that I commented. You're right. It's important.
Are there ever comments? Yeah, it sure is. And is there ever times that I don't comment back? I'm sure that there are times that I miss comments, but I definitely try to comment back. And if someone shares my post, my gosh, I am definitely writing them and I'm saying, thank you so much for sharing the post. I really appreciate it. And when you say that to the person, they are 10 times more likely to share another one of your posts in the future. Yeah, you're right. Sharing is one of the most important things because it gets it to people that don't already follow you. Right. So, and if we could jump back to the books and education part real quick. There is someone that I follow on Instagram. He has nothing to do with furniture, but if you're in business, he's a great person to follow. And that's Gary V. I'm familiar with him. Gary V is he just oozes positivity. Yeah. And he speaks the truth. And he's going to tell you, it gets hard, but you have to keep going. And he has all kinds of different strategies and for growing your social media and everything else. And I just find it, again, he's so positive. I find his messages to always be positive and uplifting. And after I listen to something Gary Vee says, I normally feel better.
Okay.
So
all right.
I would give Gary Vee a follow.
I haven't followed him in a while. I'll have to check him out.
Yeah.
Adam, what 3 business items could you not live without?
Well, I absolutely have to have my phone.
Yeah.
My phone is without a doubt, it's a shame that I'm on it all the time, but I don't know how I would do my business without my phone.
Yeah, that it's the curse and the bonus. I mean, I couldn't do it. There are times when I'm looking at something on my phone and I think, what would I do without this? I wouldn't have this information available to me.
I try at night to put my phone down, but during the day, it's how we connect with everyone, and everybody expects a quick response nowadays. It's different than it used to be, and I feel the need to keep up with what people are expecting, and so the phone is the most important tool I have, probably.
Okay.
Other than that, my things are not exciting. I mean, I use a Sprinter van, and I think that anybody that's not using one of these large cargo vans is really missing out. I didn't have one for a long time, and now I'm on my 4th. I'm putting hundreds of thousands of miles on them. Again, when we talk about our bodies and how our bodies break down from work, having a Sprinter van that you're able to stand up in and carry furniture in and out of without being crouched over and everything else, it makes a world of difference for moving people's furniture around. Okay. I started with a pickup, and with a pickup, you're worried about whether it's raining or not. And then if you get a cab for it, then you're like crawling up in there and crawling back out. Yes. And thank goodness I was younger then, because I would never be able to do that now. Yeah. So my Sprinter, any high top cargo van is, if you're in the upholstery business, you need to bite the bullet and get one. They run forever. I'd go ahead and buy a new one if you can, because then that you've taken care of it, and it's gonna go 300,000-400,000 miles. But that van is something that we have 2 of them now, but I would not be able. I wouldn't be standing up straight, I don't think, if I was moving all of this furniture in a low top vehicle.
Yeah, transporting what we fabricate is its own challenge. It really is. Yeah.
And a third thing, I would go back to, and I'm not sure it's a thing, it's a piece of technology though, is Instagram. Yeah. And I would never be where I am without Instagram. Okay. I got on Instagram when it first started. And at that time, there were very few people with a furniture posting and tagging. Like I do designer furniture, so Harvey Prober, Edward Wormley, Charles and Ray Eames, things like that. There weren't Paul McCobb. There weren't a lot of those photos. So when you would click on one of those photos, I might have been, 4 of the top 9 photos at that point. Yeah. And that's really what grew my business Main Street Modern has 38,000 real followers, and they're from all over the world. People travel from Japan and Canada and all Europe to come to Canton, Ohio to buy furniture from me. And that would never happen without Instagram. Instagram is what has allowed me to connect with all of those people. Yeah. And it also allows me to see other people in the industry and what they're doing and connect and visualize. And, we're building out this new workroom. And I'm typing in workroom, fabric supply place. And I'm looking at everyone's workrooms. I'm like, okay, how did they do this? How do they display the fabric? How do they set up their cutting table? How do they do this? I'm printing them out. We're discussing them. We're trying to figure out what is the absolute best thing that we could do.
Yeah.
And that's all from Instagram. I would never be able to do all that without that. That's a pretty valuable tool. It's my advertising. It's my idea generation, inspiration. It's my community for business. So.
Okay. What do you do extremely well?
Extremely well. It's not necessarily upholstery, obviously.
That's okay. That's okay.
I'm a buyer. That's really what I am. I have a skill that is not necessarily taught. And my skill is that I see value. My stock market is my furniture. And I have trained my eye to see the unusual and the special. Mm-hmm. And I build up my knowledge base so much on the designers. I probably have $50,000 worth of old catalog and things that I bought on furniture. So I've memorized a lot of them. But, with that, I've learned finishes and details and things. And so I'm able to, if somebody sent me, a football field worth of junk, I could look at the pictures and I could point out, without even knowing what they are, I could tell you what is the valuable items in the pile.
Okay.
So my skill is really in buying. I buy things for less than they should be, just by seeking them out. And then I've surrounded myself with people that are able to do the other parts. And I guess with that, I'm very energetic and excited, and I'm able to put some of that into the people around me.
Okay.
And I must be good at team building.
I always think it's fascinating when people come, I must be good at this because it's working. I love that.
Yeah. Well, my number one skill is buying, is in finding those items.
Yeah, I love that. And you're right. Not everyone has that skill. I'm always amazed at, I know a few people who have created small businesses buying and selling things at a higher price. And I'm always sort of standing back going, how did you know? How did you know that was going to be the piece that would make you that much money? I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, it's really, you just can't teach it. It's really, really hard to teach. And I have never been successful at teaching someone else how to recognize. And even after they've been doing this business with me for a long time, they do start to get that eye and learn what's valuable. But then they ask me like, oh, what do you think about this? And I'm like, oh, no, like no, definitely not. And then I start questioning it all over again. It's like, but
I thought I taught you so well.
Do we not know?
Adam, what are you not so great at?
Oh my gosh, that list is way too long for a podcast.
One thing. Everybody gives me that. Where do I start? No, I want one thing. That's it.
My gosh, why I should have thought about this. What is my thing that I'm bad at? I'm a little disorganized, I think.
Okay.
I'm like everywhere, and I'm always trying to do a million things. And I guess I'm an idea generator. My brain is just like constantly thinking of what we're going to do next and all these different things that we could try to make ourselves better. But I can't keep myself, I can't keep it all together. It's like rapid fire. And it's like the next day I forgot half of what I thought about the day before.
Hey.
And that's why I have people that are able to keep me in order. And, in the last 2 years since I got Laubachers, they got me a calendar and they put things on the calendar for me. And wow, I've tried to do that for years, but hadn't been too successful at it. And so they're reining me in. They got me on a schedule. It said 9:30 today, podcast. See y'all.
Be in this seat.
I'm like, okay, I'll be here. And Maddie had it all up on the screen and ready to go. She's like, you just need to sit down. So
now I understand why everything had to go through Madison.
Yeah. So my organization time management is probably not the best. You give me a task and tell me to do it, boom, it's going to get done. But I need some direction sometimes as far as where I should be and what I should be doing. Okay.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years, Adam?
In 5 years, we're going to have taken Main Street Modern and Ohio Workroom, and we're going to move them into a 100-year-old building in the center of downtown Canton, in what I would say is a very important piece of real estate for our city. Mm-hmm. I have always been on the outskirts. Main Street Modern is an industrial warehouse. It's 40,000 square feet. It's in what we call the warehouse district. Laubacher's is in our downtown, but it's starting to head out of downtown.
Okay.
It's on one of the main roads, but it's not in the core of the city. And while downtown Canton isn't some huge city, it still has a center city and kind of like the core heart of it. And so we've bought this building that we're going to renovate. It is going to be Main Street Modern's premier showroom, mm-hmm. where we can show off the work that Ohio Workroom has done. And Ohio Workroom is going to be in the basement. I imagine that Ohio Workroom has probably 5 more employees. Mm-hmm. 1 a year would be a good rate. I plan to continue to hire and teach as much as I can. Like I said, I don't see this industry going anywhere. I only see it growing. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be young people that it needs young people to learn the trade, because if they don't, the industry would die. But I don't see that happening. Everything finds a way. So young people will come into the business and learn. And so we want to encourage that. So I see Ohio Workroom growing. I see Ohio Workroom in that building. Where do I see myself? Gosh. I probably am going to play less of a role. I think that my team has really shown me at Main Street Modern that they can do the job without me. Not without me, but without me there on a daily basis. I think that Ohio Workroom has gotten to the point that they don't need me every day. I want to be out there buying and thinking about what steps the team needs to make to continue to grow. Okay. I think we've made a lot of big steps just recently, and we're going to see those big steps refine and become more of a process. And I think that it's more of what will happen in the next 10 or 15 years. I hope at some point to have like a nationally recognized furniture company that deals in used furniture, where a designer antique furniture, where you know that the quality would be the same at different stores. So I would like to expand to other markets. And that's been something I've wanted to do for a long time. We now are wrapped up in this large investment of this building downtown. But once that is, settled and producing, I think that we'll look for some spots in some other cities. Because what I haven't seen anywhere is a national brand of antiques or vintage. Okay. And I think that at that point, we would be able to move things around from showroom to showroom. We'd be able to offer all of our services. There could be one website for all of it. But you would be able to go to the store in Nashville and you would know what the quality is at the store in Ohio. Okay. So if the store in Ohio had a sofa that you liked, but you lived in Nashville, after coming into the Nashville store, you would know that you could trust that the sofa in Ohio is the one
okay
you want. And at that point, we can build a team that is moving those pieces from store to store to different stores, creating a network. So I plan to do this for the rest of my life. I don't plan to ever give up. And I plan that, when I get to retirement age, I'm just going to do less. But we're going to continue to move forward. And I hope that one day I'll be able to, and this day may not be that far into the future, that I'll be able to give some type of ownership to different employees. And they'll be able to continue forward. And then they can, at some point we can vote and give ownership to other employees. So I think we're going to look at, I've talked with the lawyers about how to give some ownership level to different people. Because again, my people are the most important to me. When I leave this world, I want people to know me in the industry, but I also want my employees and friends and everyone else to have lots of positive things to say about me, and to say that he was a fair person and he was an honest person and that he did what he could do to help all of us. And I just want to see success in everyone that I work with. So
that is awesome, Adam. Thank you so much for taking the time today. I appreciate it. I have one last question for you, but where you mentioned Instagram, what is the Instagram account for your business? I'll put it in the show notes, but just so people know.
Yeah. So Main Street Modern is our furniture store, and that's just MainStreetModern. So okay. Main Street Modern, all spelled out. And then the upholstery shop is still under Laubacher Upholstery, and we are changing that to Ohio Workroom because no one knows how to spell Laubacher Upholstery.
or pronounce it correctly. I was practicing.
Yes, but Laubacher is Laubacher Upholstery.
Okay. I will put links to that in the show notes, and then once people start to follow you, as soon as you change, they'll be able to follow along with that. So my final question for you, Adam, is what advice would you give to someone new in the upholstery industry or to someone who's been around for a while?
Gosh, never give up. Because there are definitely going to be days that are going to be hard. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be times that you think, gosh, I need to go back to that corporate job. And I would say, just don't give up. Keep going. It always gets better, even when it seems like it's at the worst. And the other thing that I would say is strive to be the best that you can be. Don't be okay with okay. Look towards being the best that you can possibly be, because when you're the best, there's always, if you're the best, people will pay for it. Yeah. There's no doubt about it that if there's a guy that's charging $500 to do a chair, and there's a guy that's charging $2,000 to do a chair. As somebody that owns a furniture company and has customers I used to give customers options. Like, I have this upholsterer, and this upholsterer. They're all not too far apart, but they're charging different rates. Almost every time they'd say, well, what's the best upholsterer?
Right.
And I'd say, well, that's this person, they're 3 times as much as the lowest option. And not everybody would choose that upholsterer, but a lot of people would rather pay twice as much to have the best upholsterer do the job. And so I would say always strive for perfection. Never say it's good enough. Good enough is dangerous. That is, we all get to a point that we're like, gosh, I've worked on this for so long. I can't continue to work on this. I have to put this out. And when we work on something for way too long and we get it to an acceptable point and we have to say that this is good enough, it weighs on me and it makes me feel subpar.
Yeah, it never feels great, does it?
No.
Yeah.
So I really think that all of us in this industry need to try as hard as we can to be as good as we can. But if you're just starting out, the main thing is this isn't going to be easy, and there's going to be ups and downs. And when you're in one of those bad moments, you need to just keep going because it's not going to matter what business you're in. There's going to be those ups and downs.
Yes.
And you're going to have to keep going.
Yeah. I think that's great advice.
Yeah. That's going to be whether you succeed or not.
Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, Seal, thank you. Thank you. This is my first podcast. I'm very excited to.
All right. I'm glad. Thank you. Adam is such a breath of fresh air. His energy and his positivity is just tremendous. I really, really enjoyed talking with him today. And I love hearing about what the journey has been like for him, that he's honest about some of the ups and downs, but he's still so positive and excited about what the future is going to bring for Main Street Modern, for Ohio Workroom. I just think it's fascinating, all the ideas that he has. Again, I am always amazed at how different our journeys are and how unique each of our businesses are and how we can make them what we want them to be. I love that he has a vision for his future. I also love that he said, we are going to, not I hope to, not this is what I might do. He's very definitive about what he wants to happen 5 years from now and beyond. I hope you enjoyed listening to the podcast today. I really enjoyed getting a chance to speak with Adam today. And I want to reiterate what I said at the beginning. It is an honor for me to have you listening to the podcast every week, every once in a while, a few times a month, whenever you have the time. It's a privilege to be in your ears, and I'm grateful for that privilege. And I thank you for taking the time to listen to so many of my podcasts. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great day.